Big. Alrighty, let's go here. Ted, you have been in countless huge matches. However, and this seems to be news to you, so we might as well fill you in. None bigger than the main event 1988, February 5th of 1988, from Market Square Arena in Indianapolis, Indiana. This was a live broadcast that drew a 15.2 rating, equating to 33 million viewers. Any recollections of that infamous particular night?
Absolutely. That was basically the setup for WrestleMania 4. And it was the first time that professional wrestling had been on national network television since the 50s, is what by my understanding. And of course the main event was Andre the Giant versus Hulk Hogan, and I don't believe that they had no other matches since WrestleMania 3.
Right.
They hadn't been in the ring together.
Right.
And of course that was the main event, but the story was that I had purchased Andre's assistance and that he was going to beat Hogan and sell me the title. And so, I didn't know until that night that Dave Hebner had a twin brother. I mean,
neither did I.
Serious?
They kept the whole thing a secret till we got to the building.
Wow.
That is, you didn't even know. That is unbelievable.
No, not until that night.
That is unbelievable.
Wait, so hold on. So the other guy did not work as a referee. The other Hebner never worked as a referee before.
Well, he may have, but he had never.
I honestly, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Vince had him in his basement. 1, 2, 3, count faster. You're not doing it right. Okay. This is going to be great. Wait till they see this guy. That's amazing to me that you didn't even know yourself.
And then for 2 weeks, after that, I went everywhere, showed up, got in the ring with the belt. And then
you defended that title, didn't you? One time there was 3 shows. You brought the belt
Bigelow.
with you.
Yes.
I believe it was yeah.
Dude, they can't take that off the record. That bothers me now. He was champion. He defended.
Wait a minute, I want to understand
I got
something.
a problem.
Coronavirus, Sleepy Joe in office, and we're going to worry that Ted DiBiase doesn't get the props for being the WWE.
If your priorities are not in line, you can't be spiritually sound. I want that fixed. That's all there is to it.
Terrific. So now we got to get
that. Thank you.
We got to get IRS in the Hall of Fame, and now Ted DiBiase has to get recognition for being a WWF
title reign.
champion.
Absolutely. He had to make his own belt. It's an outrage.
Guys, in March we lost Jim Crockett Jr. now. We seem to be losing a lot of people.
Oh, man.
You guys have worked the gamut. You've worked with some of the greatest promoters. Obviously Bill Watts is high on our radar too, but I'll call them the big ones. All right, you've worked for Vern, Gagne, Crockett, McMahon Jr., and we'll call McMahon Sr. number 4.
Oh man,
can you guys share your thoughts on the differences between those super promoters?
Oh man, I never worked for Jimmy. I never worked Charlotte.
Okay.
But the other guy that I would put on that list is Bill Watts, because Mid-South was huge. And I think Bill ran the Superdome before any other local promotion ran a venue that size. Of course, he didn't. He never sold it out, but we did. I can't remember the crowds, but we did get big crowds. But
Yep.
Bill is Bill's a highly intelligent guy. I mean, he's incredibly intelligent. And I still get emails from him, and we correspond today. And of course, Bill's also become a Christian. I told him a long time ago. I said, I wish you'd have been a Christian when I was working for you.
He'd have paid you better and wouldn't make you drive so far.
Yeah, he'd have paid me better, and I wouldn't have had the miles. Oh my gosh! If I'd have been paid by the mile, I would be the $1 million man.
Anyway, kidding.
So, but no, I had a world of respect for Bill, and again, Vince Jr. I mean, Vince Jr. revolutionized wrestling. I mean, when I first started seeing the show before I was part of it or anything, and some of the stuff was I know some of that stuff, the Cyndi Lauper and all that stuff, and I thought was kind of cartoonish. But what he was doing, he was trying to target a younger audience, kids. I mean, if you look back, obviously if you look at it from here looking back, it was genius. It's kind of like I tell everybody. I said, yeah, I put on a crazy outfit with dollar signs on it, but when I got in the ring, I didn't wrestle any different than I ever had.
Right.
And that was my thing, was that I still tried to make my matches as believable as possible. And the match was the story. It wasn't that, the other stuff, the vignettes and all that stuff. I tried to make the wrestling the story.
Well, you, in my opinion, 3 great sellers. Yourself, Kurt Hennig, and Ric Flair. You guys could sell like no other, I thought, and enjoyable.
Well, that's just it. I mean, and that's the whole thing. I mean, the sell job is the deal. If you don't sell well, then you don't get the big pop. You don't get the big explosion when the good guy comes back.
It's odd to me, but you are really the pinnacle. They call it sports entertainment today. You, to me, are the pinnacle of the entertainment. Obviously, the character was incredibly entertaining, the $1 Million Man, but also, you are, and I think this gets lost a little bit amongst us Marks. How you doing out there, Mark? It gets lost a little bit, the amazing technical wrestling you were capable of. You were a great technical wrestler. Do you think that today it's become too much entertainment and not enough sport?
I do.
Interesting.
I do. I mean, maybe I'm just old school, and I know there's a lot of things that change, and I know there's a lot of things that I haven't, I haven't been around the company for a while. That there are causes for change that I'm aware of. I'm certain of that. But even from fans that I talk to, like the guys like Mike and I who wrestled in the 80s and the early 90s, I hear it all the time. You guys are the last great era of wrestling. And because it was still about the wrestling. It wasn't about, the blow up in the locker room or the story backstage or whatever. It wasn't all the talk. It wasn't the soap opera drama. It was the match. Ultimately, it was the match. I mean, our interviews back then, we didn't have 15 and 20-minute interviews. We had 3-minute, 4-minute interviews for the towns, and we might have 2 or 3 of those, but building up to it.
To be fair, though, you had better storylines back then. Every match had a really good storyline to it that got the fan involved, and obviously the match was the finisher, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what's missing right now. I mean, Mike, you got children presently working in there right now, and I believe you worked as an agent. Are you still working as an agent for them?
No, I did it for almost 13 and a half years. I just finished up this year.
So how's your feelings with that, like the comparison?
Yeah, I mean, it's changed a lot, and it's hard to go on TV and tell a story wrestling if you have a 5-minute segment or a 6-minute segment and an entrance or 2 entrances. It's like a fast forward. Boom, 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 we're done. And I think time, because a lot of the talents there, I did a lot of live events, and they have 15 minutes or 18 minutes to tell like that. And I think they do so much better in that atmosphere because they're not under the gun, and they have to fit so much into TV because there are a lot of interviews and backstage and, vignette type situations. Then the matches aren't the concentration. More time should be given to that so you can tell a story wrestling in a match, and it doesn't have to be a 3-minute short story, I think.
So as an agent, when you would say that, what they just said, no, that's not the way it works.
It's not the way it works. You're basically told what they want, and you work with the talent, and then you work within allotted time, because there's a lot of different aspects that go into the sponsorships. They have to do this. They got to have this. We have to advertise for our pay-per-views, blah, 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 whatever. And, some matches will have 2 or 3 segments, but there's going to be a bigger match, obviously. But to me, that's just hard to, unless you're doing a squash match, it's hard to have any kind of competitive match in a short period of time like that. And basically that's what we used to do years ago, was have a squash match. You were the guy, and I'm gonna get 98% of this match. You just hang on, kid. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's how you got yourself over.
We say that all the time, though, but back in the day when we grew up on wrestling, right, like Morocco and Backlund would have an hour Broadway at the Garden, but, there was a lot of slowdowns, right, arm bars. Do you think today's audience just can't stand for that?
Well, yeah, because they're programmed from television not to see that. You know what I mean? Then it's boring to them.
Well, I say yes and no. I know that I know when I was working, again, for Bill Watts in Mid-South, he noticed that a lot of us were, he says, I'm seeing a lot of high spots. High spot. He said, so he took me and Terry Gordy, and he says, you guys are the main event all week. He said, I want you to go 55 minutes and then give them the finish. He says, number one, a lot of the what we call the smart marks are going to say, okay, they're going Broadway, and you're really going to screw them more or less when they go, oh wow, they went that long, and yeah. So, but he said the idea is you can't have a 55-minute match and be bouncing around the ring all the time. You have got to settle down and tell a story. And that's what Bill was getting at. And so I agree with Mike. I said, but and it might be, and for the talent today, through no fault of their own, they haven't been exposed to what Mike and I were, 20, 30 years ago, in terms of the way they have been taught the business. We were taught the business doing it. We're in the ring with a polished professional who's leading us around by the nose, and he's got 15 or 20 minutes, for us to start to understand how this whole thing works.
And 15 or 20 years of experience.
Yeah, exactly. And so the young talent today, they don't have that. And, and that's why it's kind of like when I, how long were you there, Mike? 13 years? Producing.
Yeah.
I left, and I've been doing my ministry, and I got a call from Arn, and this was back in 05 and 06, 05. Arn said, the company asked me to give you a call. They'd like you to come back to work. I started laughing. I said, do what? and he said, well, says, like, being part of the creative team. And I actually had a conversation with Stephanie. I said, Stephanie, I'm not Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood's good on both sides of the camera. I said, my gift is you tell me what you want to happen, and I can go out there in the ring and I can make the story happen. That's my gift. But it was, and I did it for about a year and a half, and I just couldn't. And I don't know if it's I couldn't or I wouldn't, just because of the way I was taught and everything. For me to sit down with two wrestlers and map out an entire match just made no sense. I said, I can't do that. I can't do that because I never did it. In other words, the real art form of what we did was improv.